We continue our live coverage where police have used tear gas to disperse residents of Swaneville. This is near Krugersdorp up here in Gauteng. The residents, we understand, angry over a lack of housing. It's not a new problem in the area, and they want government and the president to intervene. I understand I have Linda Kugler with me. They've been out, our team have been out there since early this morning. Hello to you, Linda. I can see smoke behind you earlier. Our camera person even getting in the way of some tear gas. I hope you're both okay now. What's the latest where you are with the running battles?
Well, earlier on when we were tear gassed, along with the residents of Swaneville here in the Krugersdorp side, I can tell you that police since then have managed, in fact, to push the residents away. You will see some of the visuals. The residents are in now the community of Swaneville. It does seem that they have called for reinforcement because there is another vehicle, a big vehicle there that is called one of the eNCAs, which is also reinforcing some of the police officers. But what you are seeing now is the situation in its current state. They have been able to push the residents away from the main roads. They have been able to push them away even from the land that they said they want to occupy. And what is currently happening is that they have been, kept inside there. But this again, Gareth, if you can just remind you that it is an issue of land. These residents are saying that they want land that is near them, and they're saying that one of the things they've been doing since 2020 was to try and call on government to actually assist them in getting the land. Their understanding is that the land belongs to one of the banks, but they're saying that since 2005, this particular bank has not been able to do anything. And that is why they're saying with the growing concern, with the growing demand on land, they also want to be allocated this particular land. But they said reaching out to Mogale City, reaching out to that particular bank, and reaching out to the Department of Housing in this particular municipality, they have not been able to, in fact, get a response, a positive response in terms of this particular land. But I can tell you that police have been up and down trying to manage the situation. Rubber bullets, tear gas, as you saw earlier on, and now you see that as well as stun grenades have been used. But what the police have employed in terms of a strategy is to actually have those two eNCAs stand there so that residents can only be kept in that particular community and not disrupt the traffic like they did before when we saw some of those visuals earlier on, brought to you by, of course, Ditiro Silepe, my colleague.
Yeah, Ditiro doing a great job being able to move around the various areas as well, because, Linda, earlier it wasn't on one road like we are seeing now. They were scattered to your left and to your right. It seemed, when I was watching Uverka and you talk earlier, it seemed that the community had almost spread out, forcing the police to spread themselves thin over a very long distance. It wasn't a single road. It looked like it could easily have been stretched around a kilometre from left to right. So the community, it seemed back then, trying to spread the police quite thin.
That's right, Gareth. The community seemed they had a strategy as well of spreading out and try to stretch the resources in terms of the police. And as we get closer, what the police have done, you will see that there are two eNCAs. There was one eNCA at some point, but we saw reinforcement coming. We saw even some of the equipment that they are using in terms of rubber bullets being brought to some of the police that were already stationed there here in the morning. But I can tell you that the strategies of the community in terms of trying to stretch out, in terms of trying to stretch the resources that is the police and personnel on the ground, that has since been halted by the police strategizing to say that they are going to create this particular barrier. As you will see, we are getting closer. It seems that there is no tear gas stench at the moment that we've been confronted with. But the residents themselves just down there have also created their own form of a barrier, because earlier on the eNCA, we saw it just moving towards the community inside, trying to make some arrests. But at this stage, it does seem that the community has been kept inside that particular area. But their call earlier on when we spoke to them is that if they are not given land, they will continue to be disruptive in this nature, because they have tried all other ways in terms of the paper trail that they've shown us to say they've reached out to the municipality, they've reached out to all of the relevant people, stakeholders in terms of this land, but theirs is to demand that they be given this land. Earlier on when they tried to occupy the land, we saw that some of them were in fact evicted by the Red Ants. So they're saying at this stage that they will not back down, but many of of them even creating shields there, Gareth, as you will see. With some of the material they're able to lend their hands on, but they keep on pushing the police. But police at this stage, it seems that they are not budging. But it's a standoff, the situation. One of the things that is quite concerning is the issue that there hasn't been any leader, there hasn't been any form of official coming to the area to try and handle the situation or give out some form of information and clarity as to what exactly is the situation with the land that these residents are demanding.
And Linda, as we are watching a good close-up shot here from De Tiro at the moment, we're seeing a number of youngsters trying to make their way, what I think would be camera left, if you want to call it that, of the police. Give me a sense, if you can. Tiro doesn't have to zoom out or anything, but I'm seeing an awful amount of residents and only 2 eNCAs. Are you getting the sense that police are going to be overwhelmed in this situation, or are we just not seeing on camera all the enforcements that are there? I'm only seeing 2 eNCAs.
Well, I can tell you, Gareth, that earlier on they were quite overwhelmed, the police that is being pushed back by some of the residents, and in fact some of them even retreating to the eNCAs, the one of the eNCAs that you see. But since this particular eNCA, the second one that is just behind the first one, arrived, we have seen that they were able to just push these residents back to bring some order in terms of the main road, that is the R41. And as you can see, every now and then they keep on pushing them back. They keep on taking them into their communities, Gareth. But I can tell you now that we are struggling as well with a battery. It's about to go off. But we'll leave you with those visuals, Gareth, as you see the eNCA keeping pushing there to ensure that these residents retrieve to their community.
All right, Linda, I understand that the battery is going to be perhaps failing on you. We're going to try and stay with you as long as we can, as you guys get back to a safe distance. If you have just joined us, this is All Angles on eNCA, 28 minutes after 11. Live visuals coming from Krugersdorp in Gauteng. Running battles have been continuing since this morning between residents of this particular area in Krugersdorp at the moment. They've been demanding land, some even claiming that they've been removed by red ants in Swaneville, in Krugersdorp, in Gauteng, as what we've seen so far, 2 eNCAs. Linda, I think you are still with me. I am aware of the potential battery dying. In that time that you and I perhaps have left, what are the police saying they're hoping to do here, to try and negotiate with the residents, or simply stop any more destruction? I just saw that eNCA racing down the road, where we're looking now to push those residents back.
Gareth, there were negotiations earlier on. I have to apologize in terms of saying the battery is dying. It is, in fact, the memory that is full, but we are still able to bring you some of these visuals live. As you see, the eNCA just coming back through that particular barrier that was created by the community members here. But we've seen this play out, in fact, earlier on, where the eNCA would charge inside the community, but community members, with their resilience, are coming back, as I see with my eye, that they are coming back even from down the road. But in terms of negotiations here, there were some community leaders that were trying to negotiate with the police that are in charge of this particular public order operation. And I can tell you that one of the issues that arose was when there were negotiations, when they were trying to say that we are in fact trying to access Mukhale City, let us, the leaders, actually move forth. It was disrupted by, in fact, the residents who are saying there's too much talking and less action. We've seen this before. And there was the throwing of stones, some of the things that we've caught on camera. And that is what disrupted some of those negotiations. But police are saying that these people are not able to negotiate with them because some of them keep on throwing stones, keep on throwing bottles, as well as anything that they can land their hands on. And they have, in fact, become strategic with some of the shields that they've created, makeshift shields, if you may. And, you know, the residents keep on coming back, but there hasn't been a point of negotiation where there is some form of clarity as to what is happening. I did hear one of the police officers during the negotiations telling us that, or telling the other community leaders that they were trying to call some of city officials, including the MMC of Human Settlement, as well as the mayor. But unfortunately, one of the things that they have been told is that they are in meetings. We're not sure exactly what the meetings are concerning, but I can tell you that at this stage, those negotiations proved, null and void, if I may put it in that way. They didn't yield any results. And at this stage, the residents as well as the police keep on being in this standoff where they charge in the community and they would come back. You see some of the resilience, even the residents, it seems that they are not even afraid now anymore of some of those rubber bullets with their makeshift shields there as you see them. But rubber bullets are currently being fired at the residents. But look at them, the way in which they are, you know, positioning themselves behind that particular, they keep on charging the police, and it would only be when the police leave those inyalas, come out of those inyalas, that the residents then would run back. You see that the inyala charging there. This has been the situation throughout the morning, but then again, the vacuum of leadership in terms of who comes here and addresses these residents to stop these unrest is something that we haven't seen throughout the morning.
And Linda, I think it's worth perhaps, if possible, I know you've been covering land grab stories for some time, and I would just like to remind viewers that this issue in Swaneville, here in Krugersdorp, as we watch the police step out the back of the Inyalas, we heard some rubber bullets a moment or two ago. Linda, I know the police are now moving out the back. This is not a new issue in Swaneville. I mean, if you just cast your mind back to 2015, we saw very, very violent protests in the same area, although back then it seemed the anger was around, looks like we're losing visual slightly, the anger was around those who had registered and been allocated land in that area, and that was all the way back in 2015. So this is not a new issue. I've seen some criticism saying that these communities are only protesting because it's an election year. But that's not true, is it? This goes back at least half a decade.
Well, these issues from the community, they're saying that the community kept on growing, but there was no provision of land. They've shown us certificates of some people who applied even as far as 2008, but some of them, those are the documents we've seen, 2008 being the earliest that we've seen in terms of some of the application for housing. But I can tell you that there are other people that are claiming that since 1998, they were not able to actually get land, and that's the issue that they are trying to raise here, to say this land apparently has been earmarked for development for some of the banks as well as building a mall here. But since 2005, there wasn't any form of development. So what they are saying is that they must be given this land because in the community there is a rising demand of actually getting land and getting housing for people. But they're saying that government efforts haven't been, in fact, proving to actually be yielding any form of a result in terms of getting the land. One of the Inyalas is pulling back, as we are seeing, but one of them persistently going into the community. But the residents themselves, the protesters, keep on charging that Inyala from all sorts of positions. This is the situation at this stage, Garrett, but the engagement as far as the municipality is concerned, as well as in fact the MMC's office in terms of housing, when they engage them, we do understand that there was no response towards these community members in terms of what is going to happen with that land. So that is why they're saying that they have no choice now, since 2020, trying to engage government about this land. They're saying a year later, this is what they have resorted to. We're just going to step back, Garrett, but the pictures will try and keep them as you see, because it seems the police are in fact withdrawing from the position that they've held for such a long time. But these are the visuals that are coming out of Swaneville, Garrett, as you see the Inyala in fact pulling out as well, followed by a myriad of stones that are being thrown by residents behind there.
All right, Linda, obviously, as you continue to bring us these visuals, as many of our viewers know, when we have both you and Tiro in the field covering this and the Inyala starts heading for you, you also start becoming the target. So I'm going to ask you just to catch your breath for a moment, move back, both you and Tiro. The last thing we need is any projectile running towards you. All right, looks like we have lost them. I'm pretty sure that was nothing more than just the signal being dropped. I wouldn't worry about Linda and Ditira, our camera person. Very, very good in places and situations like this. But we'll go back to them as soon as we can. But where Linda was going with this before we lost him, I mentioned some 6 years ago, ongoing protests in that area. Now, I take you back to 2019, where the ANC leader, Cyril Ramaphosa, while campaigning in that year, had addressed that, had said that he was going to be addressing the issues in Swaneville and meeting with those residents on the West Rand. They're saying the party back then was going to attend to concerns, not just about housing, which is what today's protest is about, but also jobs, proper school infrastructure, and also drug lords. There's a big drug issue there. Lindo, I'm not sure if I have you back with me, but we are seeing you and Tira running up the road. Hello to you, Lindo. Are you guys okay? We're going to stay with your visuals for now. Where are you moving to now? All right, looks like we have lost Tira. I'm sure, as you'll understand, very, very fluid movements and very dynamic situation at the moment. So back to Lindo and our team a little bit later. Much bigger issues to deal with in Swaneville, it seems, than just housing, but it seems today those demanding housing have had enough.